Welcome to the Cafcass Health and Wellbeing Podcast.
Welcome to the Cafcass Health and Wellbeing Podcast. My name's Paul Doherty. We've got Carl Bryce and Chloe Janota from the Health and Wellbeing team. In today's episode 4, we're going to be talking everything exercise really. We're going to look at some top tips for exercise, focusing on fuel, injury prevention, and just some nice tips that you can take away and implement to your exercise regimes that are going to boost your performance and reach your goals. So, shall we have a think about what we want to talk about first? Should we talk about nutrition for performance?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's think about endurance. So think about the different types of exercise that people might be doing. Got endurance training, i.e. running, cycling, people who commute to work, bikes and running
for long periods of time.
Yeah, we've got a number of colleagues who do some endurance events. Can think of a few that I've spoke to down the years that some 100-mile events and things like that. So we'll cover endurance, gym-based exercise, strength, conditioning, power, etc. And have a think about that more short-based stuff. So where do you want to start? Should we start with endurance?
Yeah. Nutrition and fuel for endurance.
So I suppose endurance is quite a funny one, because endurance can go from anything from doing something for 20 minutes to doing something for 72 hours in terms of events. So obviously it is slightly different in terms of the fuel that you might want for that. But if we should we look at the kind of first bit that you might think of endurance in terms of running or cycling, and say, well, what do we need to fuel a training session that's going to last anything from 0 to 90 minutes?
Yeah.
And then we can maybe look at beyond that, because that's going to be slightly tailored and different. So, I think, in my opinion, I'll start on this one, as I do a fair bit of endurance work myself. Fueling anything between 0 and 90 minutes, you can do on your regular diet. You don't necessarily need to supplement on anything. Good balance of nutrients, macronutrients that we've discussed in previous podcasts. Obviously, there's many different ways that you can maybe try and do it, and there's many variants and many people out there who are doing different types of diets to fuel endurance. But I think if I'm looking or advising an individual who wants to fuel their commute to work, and that might be an hour's cycle or a 30-minute run, I would be saying, there's a couple of options that you can maybe try. In the morning, you might want to do a fasted run if you're looking for maybe some weight loss, because you're going to be tapping into your fat stores, and then you're looking at eating post-workout. Or if you're not looking for weight loss and you're looking for more performance related, you might want to think about what you're having for your breakfast. And then it becomes important around timings then, doesn't it? And what time am I eating and what am I eating as well. So
say you ride to work or you run to work?
I'm currently running to work.
So what would you normally do?
So
in the morning, would you do that fasted?
On the morning, I'm usually fasting at the minute based on my goals. So I'm looking at reducing body fat. So my morning run is generally, it's a 6-mile run, which I do fasted. So just water. So I'd get up and at least have a bottle of water, so it's about 700 mils to a litre of water 15-20 minutes before the run. and get everything ready and get off really. depending on how then you feel in the afternoon run, because obviously you got your one runway, generally run back.
That runs to the bus stop.
Yeah, no. Depends how tired you are. But no, generally, you're running both ways. That becomes slightly different. So you do then need fuel, because then you're doing a full 8-hour day's work, and then you're running another 6 miles, or say, for instance, you're doing another 45 to an hour's minutes work. You need to fuel that. For me, at the minute, again, based on goals, that'd be done through high fat content, foods with high fat content. So mainly looking at kind of nut butters, coconut oils, dairy products.
Once you get into it, do you mean? When
Yeah,
you're at your desk,
I wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, probably after lunchtime. So
Yeah.
I'd normally fast right through till kind of 1 o'clock ish. Then if I nip out, I'll have a quick bite.
Yeah.
So normally it's foods that are high in fat content. Make this homemade. I kind of call it a healthy Nutella. I like it. So it's like almond butter, and in there you mix some coconut oil, some melted coconut oil, and some melted organic dark chocolate, the green and blacks. Get like 90% cacao and melt that in. It's like a homemade Nutella. It's pretty good. It's quite naughty. But it's very low in terms of the amount of food you're eating. It's just high in density in terms of calorific, so it's really good for fueling, good for energy, good for remaining in a fat burning state as well, which is what I'm looking for through my goals, which is good. I think there are other ways of doing it though. That's not the only way that you can fuel your run. I think one of the most studied, and Chloe might be able to add a bit to this, or one of the most studied is carbohydrates is the most efficient fuel for exercise, and one that's been long standing in terms of endurance and the benefits of it. So you may also want to think about that. I think it is good on a morning though to fast and do some form of exercise. I don't know if you two have got experience of that.
I usually run on a morning fasted just for the convenience as well, because I usually go out about 6ish. So if I were going to eat breakfast beforehand, I'd have to get up very early, because you should leave around 2 hours before you exercise after you've eaten. I don't do it to lose weight, but there is some theory behind that you're burning your fat stores. But if you did want to fuel up beforehand, then like fast-acting carbohydrates, like a bowl of porridge with some fruit, or I don't even know.
Would you say
it
kind
was
of
in
like
the
a
morning.
bran-based cereal or something like that? Like
Some Weetabix.
I think you should
Would that
stay
be
away
good?
from the high fibre stuff.
Okay, yeah.
That could get messy, I guess, especially if you're not used to it.
Literally. There is exercise does get your digestive system generally moving, doesn't it? And you can be caught short.
Yeah.
Well,
Because if you run it like running gravity and the impact. Yeah, so be careful about that'll kill you the night before.
Something like a smoothie or yogurt.
Smoothies are popular, aren't they?
Yeah, yogurt with fruit.
NutriBullets and
Nothing too heavy. They'll take too long to digest. You don't want to feel sluggish when you're running, especially, and nothing too high fibre or too high fat, because that also takes a long time to digest.
So you're not necessarily, if you have something like that, your body's not necessarily going to have digested it and broken it down into energy to fuel your run.
Yeah. Like if something's high fibre, you're not getting as much energy from it as something low in fibre, because there's obviously the fibre, you don't always break down the fibre, so you don't get any energy from it.
It takes a lot longer to break down. So something that's if we're thinking like whole foods, because we don't want people to just like be fueling on some sweets maybe, which some some endurance athletes probably do, but thinking some fruits would be good, wouldn't they? Generally, the low fibrous fruits, so like bananas, oranges maybe would be really good.
If I'm going to do something in the afternoon, so like you've had like a bit of an intense morning doing work, and it's before dinner, but you feel like you just need a bit of something just to get yourself out the door, then I'll have a banana, like maybe 20 minutes before I go out.
Banana and maybe a spoon of almond butter or something if it's about an hour beforehand. But yeah, if you just want a quick release, then a banana's a great thing to do.
Yeah. You see athletes do that though, don't you? Like
Nadal,
tennis stars who might be doing things, on court for anything between, an hour and 3 to 4 hours. They fuel on bananas, don't they? And drinks. So
I think Rio Ferdinand was quite famous for eating Jaffa cakes on the football pitch. At one point, but we're not obviously recommending to eat Jaffa cakes if you're doing a 90-minute run or whatever.
It's just the speed of which your body turns it into, uses the sugar, isn't it?
But yeah, you could definitely. You don't need to eat beforehand, especially if it's just like a 10k run or something. You can maybe have a coffee beforehand. That's quite good for performance.
Yeah, coffee obviously is a stimulant there, isn't it? Which is good for boosting your energy levels for a short period of time. Which is
again, that gets your digestive system going as well. So experiment.
Yeah, so that's one thing to consider, particularly for people who might be starting runs, thinking about the people doing couch to 5k or something like that, is really think about your timings of your exercise, of when you want to go out, and if you've eaten or if you've not eaten, what would be best to do.
And to avoid what's not old school thing, but it's the common mistake that you see people doing that might be trying to exercise to lose weight on the treadmill, and they'll be there drinking a Lucozade while they're on the treadmill. I think that's one way to make sure that you don't get any results.
100%. I think as I said at the start, anything between 0 and 90 minutes, you don't need to supplement. You don't need the Lucozade. You don't need the protein shake after. You don't necessarily need to fuel yourself or give yourself more or use these supplements when you can just have your normal meal.
People overestimate how many calories they've burnt as well, and they think they have to eat more to compensate for the calories they've burnt.
I think with the Lucozades, they're like 500 ml bottles, aren't they? And they recommend, for particular, I think for doing a certain amount of exercise, they only recommend having like 100 mils to fuel kind of say 30 minutes exercise. So
500 ml bottle.
So if you're doing 30 minutes exercise per day and it's high intensity exercise and you want to fuel that, you only need 100 mils of sugars, and that's to go into the blood after to get sugar back into the muscles, to get glycogen back into the muscles. You only need roughly around like 100 mils, whereas people are drinking a full bottle. So they're getting 5 times the amount of sugar than actually what they potentially need, and that's within elite athletes. That's not within the type of work that probably Joe Bloggs is doing down at the gym. So you really got to think, these. I think supplements. I think it's a bit of a across endurance and across strength training, gym-based supplements. I think it's a money-making thing. It's a market now, and people have seen that as a market. I think the latest one to come out is Joe Wicks has just brought a protein shake out,
Has he?
and in collaboration with My Protein, and it's this awesome, protein that how it's being promoted, and I think he's done like vegan ones as well, but the protein per portion has got less protein than the basic My Protein powder. So it's like he's put his face to something, and a lot of these fitness experts now are doing that, and look, they're making books, they're making all these types of things, which is great. I think it's really encouraging people to lead healthier lifestyles and choose things, but supplements is completely different to a recipe book, which is giving you healthy options of what to eat. Completely different. So you've really got to be careful with the supplements, I think. Like I said, unless you have goals that require you to either eat more, you're looking at building a lot more muscle than what you have, and therefore the protein supplements come into play for that, in terms of getting more protein and carbohydrates into your diet to make sure that you're building muscle, which sometimes you can't get with just food, or if you're doing ultra endurance events more than 2 hours, where a lot of the studies say you need so much carbohydrates per hour based on how fast you're running, and you work it out on a calculation, and then that's where you see them having the gels like throughout these endurance events. So you certainly, if you're cycling for an hour and you've got a couple of gels in your back pocket, leave them there. That's same for if you're running, and if you're at the gym, avoid the protein shakes unless your clear goals are to be building muscle, and you're working to an intensity that's actually going to help you do that. That'd be my advice.
Your body can only absorb is it like 20 grams of protein at a time anyway, so a lot of the protein shakes, like the bulking ones,
mass builders,
they have a lot more than 20 grams in them, so your body can't utilise it, so it just it's a waste product anyway. So really you're spending your money, you're just wasting your money.
Well, you wean it out, aren't you?
Yeah.
Any excess protein, you either wean it out or you're storing it in your body as extra fat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's again good information for people, isn't it? I think.
Literally throwing your money down the toilet if you were.
I just had a thought. It'll come back to me around something similar, but. If we think, moving on to strength-based training almost, we know we mentioned it, but a lot of protein powders, or a lot of the recommendations is to have, if you're thinking ratios of what, after a strength-based training you've done, ratio of protein to carbohydrates is an interesting topic. I know most of the kind of brands will look at 3-part carbohydrate to 1 part protein. And that's looking at like a 20 gram protein, so then you're getting like 60 grams of carbs, and that's kind of been a proven combination, I suppose, in terms of the protein shakes, which is actually what most of the shop bar ones definitely are.
That's the same with if you have a meal after the gym, it should be in that ratio, so about 3 carbohydrates to 1 portion of protein. Not, you know what I mean? What you just said.
3 to 1. Yeah, 3 to 1. And that's if you is that. Would you recommend that to anybody, or would you recommend that as to someone who's got particular goals? Would that be the same for someone who is building muscle, or the same for someone who is looking to lose weight as well?
If you're looking to lose weight, I don't think you need to. It wouldn't make sense to add another meal into your diet. I think maybe you have to look out more when you're eating. So if you go to the gym on an evening, then your evening meal could be your post-workout meal. So they say to have it within 30 minutes to an hour after you've exercised, if possible. But now if you were looking to put on mass, then you could afford to have a post-workout meal because you need the extra calories, and the same with a pre-workout meal. Obviously you'd need more protein if you were building muscle, but protein is also important when you're losing weight as well. So you probably need less carbohydrates if you're looking to lose weight as well, if you're fueling for a big heavy session.
Yeah, I mean, there's some theory, isn't there, is that, until you have a good amount of muscle and a low amount of body fat, below kind of like looking around 10% body fat, you don't actually need to eat any kind of sugar or carbohydrates,
really?
or particularly kind of refined ones that we, post meal.
Oh, okay.
Post workout.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're saying that the body has actually got its natural its natural fat stores. If you're looking to, so if you're actually looking to reduce your body fat, you can actually have. There's evidence there to say that you should really avoid having any sugar because it's not actually fueling your muscle. You're not fueling really. You're not necessarily needing to fuel your muscles, and your muscles can take some proteins and turn that into sugar. Or your body can take muscle protein and turn that into sugar. Any excess protein.
Yeah. Do you mean from
your fat
what sort of things? Like, obviously carbohydrates also include like your fruit and your veg. So
yes, veg. I always recommend people eat veg, particularly fibrous vegetables. I think it comes back to kind of people taking any type of supplements or having, starchy carbohydrates particularly might not necessarily be a good option for someone who's looking to lose weight. To processed carbohydrates like pastas and stuff like that, white pastas and things. So there's some really. I'm trying to think of where I've got an article somewhere that I'll be able to share. It's from Charles Poliquin. Don't know if you've come across Charles Poliquin.
He's died, hasn't he? No?
Has he?
He's dead.
He's on about
55 or something like that.
Really?
He died about 2 months ago.
I haven't seen him. I no wonder I've not had any emails through from his
You want to
website.
complain?
No, probably. Has he died? Wow.
because he gave up carbs.
Maybe because he gave up carbs. Maybe I need to
He
revert.
had a heart attack.
Did he?
Yeah, but it could be for any reason.
Could be any reason, yeah. Wow.
It's like when
He's got some-
Atkins
yeah.
died of an heart attack, when everyone said, "Oh, the Atkins diet is going to give you a heart
Yeah.
attack,
Yeah.
give you heart disease."
I think I liked Poliquin's website. You've got a website called Strength Sensor, and it's all very driven around fitness and provides all the evidence, articles and evidence around it. And he's one of the big advocates of, you don't need sugar unless you're less than 10% body fat.
Yeah.
You'll fuel yourself essentially through your meals and through through your training.
So would you say someone who, because you're following a ketogenic diet now?
Currently, yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to the gym and you train resistance to build muscle, then post workout, say you'd had something fat based, would your body then be able to convert the fat and use the backbone? I'm probably going into a bit too much now, but basically, will your body be able to use the fat stores then to replenish the glycogen stores within the muscles?
So I'd always have some protein post workout. Wouldn't necessarily. If I was doing a strength based training, I'd have some form of protein, meat or again dairy products high in protein. What the body would do is take some of the proteins that it didn't necessarily need to help build muscle and go through a process called glycogenesis, where it turns the protein into sugars and then fills up your glycogen stores. Obviously, there is some. I'd always have some form of carbohydrates, but it would always be the vegetable form, or particularly kind of leafy green vegetable form.
So would you then?
So it wouldn't necessarily, if I was having a meal, like a post-workout meal. But saying that, I don't go to the gym anymore.
Right. Okay.
So I cancelled my gym membership. So I'm not doing actually. The only strength-based training I'm doing is stopping on my run to do some pull-ups on a tree. So you not actually necessarily need, for what I'm doing, the endurance side of things and reducing my body fat, I'm not actually looking at increasing strength or increasing size. So I suppose my goals are slightly different in that respect. I wouldn't necessarily do a ketogenic diet and strength train.
Right. Okay.
I don't think there's enough evidence out there to say that it's beneficial. So I'd always, if I'm strength training, I'm eating chocolate.
Yeah.
Um,
Not even 90% green and black, going straight to
no,
dairy milk.
straight to dairy milk. Yeah,
Milky
yeah.
bars.
Yeah, so you really have to tailor it to what you're trying to do. If you are someone who, I think if you're someone who trains 5 times a week for an hour, you'll be able to do that without supplementation, good balanced diet. If it's strength-based stuff that you're doing, gym-based workouts, then you need to have your good balance of carbs, proteins and fats. I think if you're looking anything beyond that's a kind of a niche type of, well, not necessarily a niche, but things like running, cycling, endurance, then look at what the evidence is saying. Like, there's some really good evidence to say, you need to have a look at a carbohydrate-based diet where she's looking at 60%, and there's increased performance. But there's also new research now to say on endurance training, a high-fat diet is also good, and it's good because particularly over an amount of time, if you're in an endurance event for 3 to 4 hours and you're constantly having to take carbohydrates in, your body's not necessarily it's not wanting to digest it, because your digestive system automatically pretty much shuts down when you're eating. When you're in that kind of length of time of training or exercise, you don't want to be, your blood wants to be going through to the muscles that are working rather than through the digestive system. So constantly taking in carbohydrates whilst you're running is not necessarily doing anything for you. So the ketogenic approach is saying, well, you can run for longer without having food, because your body's working, once it's used what the energy it has through calories, it then taps into your fat stores, and off you go, and you can go for a lot longer on that. So there's a couple of good approaches, but that's doing, but that's working up towards some longer events, like kind of 3-4 hours, if not a little bit longer in the future. Yeah.
I think even before you look at supplements and things like that, even like protein timing and stuff, you should just make sure you're actually eating a good diet of proteins, high fibre and healthy fats and whole grain carbohydrates, and then also make sure you're getting enough sleep, you're drinking enough water, you're managing your stress levels as best you can, because they will also impact on your exercise performance. And supplement is like right at the top of right at the bottom of the list. Have you seen that pyramid, which is like supplements right at the top?
Yeah. You 100% right with that. I think that's where we probably as a society are pushed to doing it backwards, because often that's what's seen to us. You see the advert of protein, you don't necessarily the advert of have good sleep.
No.
You don't see the advert that says drink 3-4 litres of water if you per day. In terms of recommendation, water's key, isn't it? Like in terms of hydration, if you think about blood flow, muscle performance, digestive system. It all comes. A lot of it comes down to your hydration. Pre, post, and jogging. Because I think again, a lot of people, they'll take the water bottle to the gym and it'll have been in the bag since the last time we went to the gym, and I've probably stale water in it, and then they'll rinse it out and they'll fill it up. Standard practice for most like just gym goers, but then they won't drink before or after. They'll just go back in the gym bag and then they'll just be. So it's really key, just for how the body functions, to drink water throughout the day, really, all the time. In my opinion. But I think, again, just for functions. There is, for those who are into isotonic drinks, there are some good recipes that you can make your own though. So you talk about like Lucozades and stuff. There's the high concentration of sugar in them. You can actually make your own isotonic drink, because an isotonic drink is not necessarily to replenish sugar. It's there to help get salt into the system and help to replenish all the other minerals that you lose whilst exercising. I shared a recipe on Yama a couple of months back, which is quite a good recipe. So let me just pull that up and I'll give that out again so you can have a look. So the isotonic drink, if you're looking at an average kind of water bottle between kind of 700 and 800 mils of water, have a look at getting some good salt, like one teaspoon of good salt, and that I would always avoid table salt. It's not natural salt. Look for something like a good sea salt, and a salt that's got colour is generally a good one to go for. So you got like pink salt, pink Himalayan salt's a really popular one. But if you see like a bright white kind of crystallized salt, that's quite good as well. And then looking for, you do want to get some sugars and some flavours in there. You don't just have salt water, so just using like fresh fruit. You can use, like I always say, like citrus, so kind of orange, lime, lemon, something like that, and just squeeze the juice of one of those into your drink. And then if you're using it for running, for example, what I'd say is drink about half of that kind of 10 to 15 minutes before you run, and then keep the rest to sip throughout your run. So you're kind of looking at another 800 mils that you can kind of drink every kind of 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how long you're on the run.
Would that be just if you're going a certain distance?
Yeah, I'd say again, really anything above kind of 90 minutes, I think is probably what I recommend. But it does, for a lot of people, it depends. Some people who are starting off running might experience cramps within the first kind of 10-15 minutes. So if you're starting off, you might want to think about doing something like that. It's all kind of like natural ingredients, so that's a good point. And it's not excess sugar. It's got a little bit of salt to help with the circulation. It's keeping hydrated, isn't it? Which I think is probably the main point throughout your run or throughout your workout, as we all sip our water. So yeah, that would be my advice around being isotonic. Okay, we want to talk about a few other bits, don't we? We don't want to just talk about food and exercise. So I think injury prevention is a good thing to talk about.
We'll talk about 4 hours on this, couldn't we?
We could do a long time, and I think it's really important, because what people probably don't recognise, and what probably is not, again, advertised, and on your 0 to 5k running, or when you go to the gym, and the PT or the gym instructor says, you want to use this machine, just do 2 sets of 15 and move to the next one. It doesn't necessarily take into consideration all the smaller body parts and tendons and ligaments that actually cause injuries. So that's, I think that should be a nice little topic that we might be able to cover. Any strategies to avoid injuries that we've got around?
I was just thinking that a lot of people spend the majority of the day sat down, and then they'll think, I'm going to go for a run, and they'll just literally get up and run. Whereas then if you've been sat down all day, everything's going to be tight, your hip flexors, your quads, and even your shoulders and everything. So you want to just do a bit of a warm-up, a bit of activation beforehand. Yeah. So just things like some glute bridges, even body weight squats, or you can get the little resistance bands that you put around you below your knees and do some side steps.
So you're really trying to open those hips up.
Yeah.
Activate the bigger muscles.
Yeah.
Your glutes and things is really key for any type of training, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And the muscles on the side of your hips. A lot of people that run, they have weak hips, don't they? So that's what causes your knees to everything just collapses, and then your arch collapses, and that's when you get your knee pain, your hip pain, everything. That's quite important.
There's the muscles as well. So there's all the fibres as well, the IT bands, a big chunk of fibre that runs down from your hip to your knee, keeping that nice and supple. to avoid kind of, for those runners or potentially runners or just anybody really who does it, who exercises and maybe people might squat and do that, things like that in the gym. If you find that you if you have like a pulling pain on the outside of your knee, most people think, oh, it's my medial, it's going to pop or whatever. But if you do some self-massage on your IT band, which is essentially right down the side of your leg, between your knee and your hip, you do a bit of self-massage on that, it generally eases off a little bit, because it's essentially you've got, it's really quite hard to explain what it is. It is just, it's like a rope of fibres, like small microfibres that are all entwined down like a rope shape down the side of your leg. It doesn't necessarily have a massive purpose, I don't think, in terms of, particularly, I suppose it does in terms of the movement, but it doesn't necessarily have a massive purpose. It's not a muscle that you would use to do anything.
And you can't stretch it, can you?
You can't stretch it, no. So you've got to really try and like self-massage it.
Yeah. Foam rollers are good for
foam rollers, tennis ball,
Yeah.
Or just a good rummage around with your fingers and thumbs and just pushing and trying to release any knots that there might be in there, because like I say, it's just like a rope of fibres that run down the leg, which is, it's quite interesting.
I find for that is to get a tennis ball and imagine wearing a pair of jeans, the small pocket that's inside the pocket.
Right.
You feel there and you hit your muscle there. Is to get a tennis ball on that, and just you can lie on the floor on your side and just gently just ease on it for 5 seconds, come off it for a few seconds and keep doing that, and you probably realise that some of the knee pain can go from that as well. But it hurts.
Yeah.
Have to go into the pain cave.
Yeah. I think for any runners or anything we've got and something I've shared and we'll share in the show notes is a pain prevention program. There's about 18 to 20 exercises on there, which is a really good program. So we'll share that so people can access it. I think it'll be really good for. It is tailored for runners, but it would be useful for anybody to do really. It covers a lot of hip mobilisation and lower back pain kind of exercises as well, which are useful. So we'll share that in the notes. In terms of one thing that I really like is the use of resistance bands. They're cheap, you don't need a gym membership, you can use them in the gym or you can use them at home, but what they actually offer is low impact exercise that you can actually do you can squat with them, you can chest press with them, you can do like if you get mini bands around your knees, you can do side steps with them, so you're activating your glutes that way, and it's a really low impact way of working, but using the muscles without putting too much strain through them. So particularly good for anybody who may be suffering from kind of osteoarthritis or low bone density and things like that. I think the resistance bands are a really good option. I quite like, I travel with my resistance band, so if I'm staying in a hotel or something, I'll take my resistance bands with me. And I normally take them out on the road if I'm visiting offices and stuff, or on a train. I generally take a couple of resistance bands just to play around with. Don't know, do you two use resistance bands?
Not that often. I wouldn't say that often for me. But I've used them in the past though. And I'm open to using them, but I just think I have got a gym membership that's local to me. So a lot of the things that I do are either in the gym. Yeah. So I'm not really needed them. Really. Yeah. In terms of like injury prevention, for me, one specific area that I've had to focus on over my exercise career, if we can put it that way, is shoulders. Because in the army, I used to do like a lot of press ups and a lot of picking up logs and stuff like that over your head and stuff. So over the years, my shoulders have felt the brunt of it. So one thing that I found that really worked for me is to do hanging, to literally on a pull-up bar or whatever it is, just literally imagine your palms facing away from you and just literally hanging for like 30 seconds, then having maybe a minute and a half off, shake your arms off, then do it again for another 30 seconds. So do that over like a period of 10 minutes. And get some really light weights and just doing some like lateral raises or something like that. And I found that that's pretty much it's got my shoulders back to like 95% of the full capacity of what they should be able to do, without any kind of like surgical intervention or anything like that. So that's a key thing for me. Another one is neck. So again, over the years, for whatever reason, it's got a really tight neck. And what I found works for me, you can buy it online pretty cheap. It's like a neck, cervical neck decompression device. Which imagine like, you go on holiday and you get one of them travel pillows.
Yeah.
So it's one of them travel pillows, and then you just literally pump it, like a little pump on it, it pumps it up here, and it basically just increases the space in between. It decompresses your vertebrae in your neck basically. Unless I wear it for about 7 to 10 minutes, it can be a bit uncomfortable under your chin and stuff like that. But afterwards, it's just Since using that, I've not had, the amount of pain or stiffness in my neck has been like significantly reduced. So.
But compression's key in terms of supporting muscle soreness.
Yeah.
Particularly post-workout. So if you're training compression, some people like sleeping compression suits, don't they? Yeah. And stuff like that. So I'd imagine that's working in a similar way in terms of compressing the area to try and support it. But I've got, in terms of trying to strengthen ligaments and tendons, particularly around joints, so knees, ankles, I've got what we call a floss band. Don't know if you've heard of that.
No,
essentially, it's like I'm trying to think how long it is. It's probably about 4 meters long.
Yeah.
And it's about 1.5 inches thick. In terms of width, and it's just like a resistance band, but it's not got it don't loop around, so it's just like a long piece of rubber essentially. And the term's called flossing, so you've like flossed the joints or flossed the muscles. And what you do is, if you're feeling any pain or if you've got a limited range of motion, say in your knee, what you do is you'd wrap this band around around your knee as tight as you can, and then you'd perform some squats or you perform some movement in it, and and then essentially what you do is you release the tension, and fresh amounts of blood and oxygen go to that area, and it's really good for like stimulating, for increasing like I say, blood and oxygenization of the area, and often helps with flexibility, helps improvement, particularly with injuries. So I got that when I did my ligaments in my knee, playing football, and without any surgery or anything, I'm now running unaided without any kind of pretty much back to running over. It took time though, probably a good 18 months of rehab without actually having them to go and have surgery and stuff. But no pain at all now. And the other thing I've used and still do use if I pick up any like little niggles is kinesiology tape. So it's like a good aid of like a physio, will use it, or to help increase. Again, it's about increasing blood flow. It's about increasing flexibility and support. So you can use like kinesiology tape as a support on any particular muscle or thing. It can help with cramps, or it can help with strains and stuff like that. It's essentially a tape that's like describe it as like a second layer of skin or whatever, and you put it on top, and it actually lifts the skin away from the muscle to help it breathe a little bit more. So one of the benefits of that. So I use that quite a bit, particularly running a lot. I'll use it on my Achilles and my feet, which is quite good. That's just something else. I would say if you're not used it before, then do speak to like a physio or something first, or someone who's applied it before. But yeah, that's one thing that I use. A lot of patching up.
Yeah.
I think when I was recovering from the knee, I was one of those people who couldn't really necessarily give up doing stuff. So I used to use the kinesiology tape to make sure I could keep playing football. Won last year, although I'm retired now. But yeah, kind of glue myself together. But, yeah, there's a few things like that are quite good. I think for general people, any recommendations in terms of, I know you've mentioned your neck thing.
Yeah.
Any other recommendations of like be able to get to in the home and stuff like that?
Well, you can get like if you Google a guy called Kelly Starrett who does this thing called mobility wad, because basically the idea behind us being able to best injury prevention is to make sure that you're moving around a lot, like you were saying before, not sat down all day, but doing movements that your body's made to do, which is like everything from lying down flat to crawling around on the floor to rolling over and all these different things. Yeah,
sitting on your heels.
Yeah, doing all these different things that your body's made to do, and not allowing, because you don't use it, you will literally lose it.
Yeah,
it's dead out. It is difficult to get back.
We can maybe share Kelly's work. We'll share the mobility wad on a post.
Yeah, he's got like a YouTube channel with all the stuff on there.
Yeah, we've shared some of his stuff before.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll make sure we get that out there.
Yeah. And there's a guy called Ido Portal as well, which is worth looking up if you think about movement. Again, you'll just see what his philosophy is around movement and things, using our bodies basically for what they're made for. That's what I would say for injury prevention. And just don't rush into doing too much. Yeah. So even though sometimes you think that you can do more, just make sure that you just build up.
Yeah. I think Chloe, anything from you in terms of maybe tools or?
The only thing I could think of was magnesium flakes that you put in your bath.
Oh yeah.
So if you've got any aches and pains, or you can just use them for relaxation and they help you sleep as well.
I think they're like Holland Barrett or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair with that as well, with magnesium, I've got some magnesium spray, like a topical spray. Whenever I play five-a-side and all that, there's always one calf that seems to get cramped up, so I'll just spray that on it, and it seems to do the job, which can be quite good. Yeah.
Well, they say there's a big ZMA is a big supplement, isn't it? Zinc and magnesium for particularly in kind of strength circles, bodybuilding type stuff. They'll supplement with zinc and magnesium to help recover and help sleep. So yeah, that's a good one to think about.
Sorry, was there anything else? I jumped in there on magnesium.
It's fine.
And I was just thinking of maybe some self-massage tools that a tennis ball, a golf ball
under your foot is good.
Yeah, really good for your arch. So I suppose they were kind of things that I was thinking of. If you're thinking about maybe like foam rolling, you could look at getting one of those. Very painful if you've never done it before. Yeah. So by using a tennis ball maybe to start with and massaging a particular sore area, say if your hamstring is feeling really tight or your quad's feeling really tight, just use a tennis ball on there. Or I quite like you can get like a self-massage stick.
Oh yeah.
They're quite good. Yeah. So maybe we could share a link to Amazon so show where people how they can get those.
There's one called a Theracane as well. Have you seen them?
Sounds a bit wrong, but go on.
It looks like a big hook, and it's got like two little handles on it, and you literally, like imagine someone massaging your neck, you can get to all the trigger points in your neck and things like that, which is
Yeah, there's so many things now.
Yeah, you probably spend about £1,000 buying all this stuff.
Yeah,
but that's why you have to find cheap versions.
Exactly, and if you've got a tennis ball lying around the house, start with that, because you can hit all your trigger points with a tennis ball. If you in the back of your neck, stick it up against the wall, or you can lie on it and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's really useful.
I think maybe also before you start any new form of exercise, have someone like a PT or someone look at the way you're actually moving. Like, because a lot of people have imbalances or things that don't work as they should. And then if you go straight into something like a HIIT class that you've not done before, then it's really easy to get injured. And if you just keep on doing that HIIT class, you're only going to make it worse. So I think about functional movements, as you said, things that like you should be training for life and not just a HIIT class.
I think on that point, and we're probably all biased being personal trainers, they're worth the weight in goals really in terms of not getting injured in the gym or hitting your goals. If you've got goals and you've had those goals for the last 6 months, you get with PT, you probably hit them within 3 months.
Also a confidence thing as well. If you've not used the gym before, then it's the best way to learn how to do everything properly, the correct form.
I mean, obviously I've not got a gym membership at the minute, but I use PT. When I've had my gym memberships, I've used PTs. But you know, it's not about knowing what you need to do in the gym. It's about having someone there to see these kind of imbalances, to notice things that you might be doing wrong. It's same like going into a class. If you've never been into a class, I'd always try and say, you know, speak to the instructor before going. You know, get there 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early. Say to the instructor, it's my first time I've been to a class. Be alright just to keep an eye on me. And I used to recommend people who used to do that when they used to come to my classes, and I'd keep an eye on them throughout and just make sure that they're doing everything right. And if they're not doing something right, you know, just give them some nice coaching tips to not embarrass them, to not point them out, but just give coaching tips to try and get them into the right way, and then, you know, catch up with them after as well. Get feedback on how you're doing, because it is about just, or if you've got any back injuries or any injuries and you're going into a class, you know, just speak to the instructors first. And I'd always say that.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd always say do that. So they're not always there just to take your money, which is good. We're coming up to an hour now. We've been chatting, chatting away. There was one last thing that probably we were going to cover, and that was footwear, or our feet. So those who have attended any of the posture and movement sessions that we've done, or probably spoke to us on a one-to-one level, we'd be telling you that the one thing about posture, one thing about your movement, it all starts with your feet. So working on your feet and having the right footwear is really key. So I don't know, should we cover this over the last kind of like just 5 minutes and before we finish? Yeah.
Sounds good.
Any recommendations?
For footwear?
Footwear, what
I was just saying that I started walking in the barefoot shoes that I know you've worn for years.
What, Paul's?
Left him in the office, you took him off.
Just because I've been reading a lot about how they strengthen all your ligaments in your foot and make you walk correctly, so and run, so when you're running you shouldn't be landing on your heel, and also to strengthen my arch, because I have a pronate when I run, and I know you can get them in like normal shoe form as well, can't you, not just as trainers. So I think to avoid shoes which kind of push your toes together, you want shoes that allow your toes to splay.
Avoiding heels. Avoid heels. Any shoes with heels
for long periods of time.
Yeah.
I think.
If you're on a night out or something, it's different, isn't it? But if it's, well,
I don't know what shoes you wear.
Well, what's that?
Your Cuban heels.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Tom Cruise, aren't
they? I think they're quite good. They say heels put you in a good posture, don't they? But I think it's about a length of time. I won't be recommending people going for work, or if they are, that they have an alternative pair of shoes for maybe walking around, for commuting and stuff like that. Yeah. So all three of us wear barefoot shoes, don't we?
I think we're all proponents, aren't we, of natural barefoot walking, running.
Yeah.
you know, I think I was saying before about with me, my feet, or for whatever reason, I get really, really tight calves if I do any long distance running in barefoot running trainers. So for me, things like in the gym or hiking, like low impact kind of stuff, or well, I suppose I do short distance as well, sprints and stuff like that on grass and stuff, and I can wear barefoot, and I would wear barefoot. But any long distance, then I would wear like a pair of Asics or something like that. Yeah,
I think that's probably down to the amount of time you're wearing the shoe. So when the recommendations when you're going barefoot is to gradually build into it and work up to your whatever your everyday stuff is. So the recommendations, particularly around the Vibram 5 fingers, is that you wear them in the house. You break them in, kind of wear them in the house. Then you kind of start walking to the shops or things like that, and then you can start exercising in them, and then you can build up your running. So I know it's that because what the 5 fingers are doing, what the barefoot running are doing, is getting your feet to work naturally with your body, particularly your arches, so strengthening your arches, and then thinking about all your Achilles tendons. So normally if you go into barefoot and then start doing some long distance, it's because your Achilles tendons inflamed, and then that obviously then leads up to the calf, because it's just not used to doing that amount of work. So it is just about building up, but the technology is Vibram, and you can get them. Loads of other shoemakers are now using that kind of tech as well, which is good. So New Balance have got their minimus range, like running shoes and training shoes, really, really good, really, really comfy.
If you're a male though, when you've only got size 6 feet and they don't do it, so you have to go buy female pair or different make.
Yeah, well, I'll just get some bright ones. It's all right. I remember one of my first pairs I had in the gym were yellow. Like bright yellow New Balance with the Vibram tech, and they were some of the like slippers. And the 5 fingers now that I've got 2 pairs, so I've got a nice smart pair which is like all black, so you can't even really tell, and then I've got a bright green pair as well. They're just for kind of around the house really. Wear them, but
slippers.
You don't necessarily need to wear them around the house, but more like indoor ones like gym. But I've not worn them for a while since I've not been going to gym, but. I mean they can be kind of pricey, but I think if you are an active person, I think they're worth the investment. And you can get all like normal shoes now. You can get hiking shoes. If anyone who hikes, you can get
shoes,
work shoes. Yeah, with the it's not necessarily about looking for the 5, the Vibram 5 fingers. They're specific. It's looking for it's the technology, isn't it, of the sole that puts you in a barefoot position of your foot.
Yeah, and you can buy. You don't necessarily have to buy complete minimal barefoot running.
No.
I mean, you can. There's different levels to it in there. So there's like the Nike free run range, which basically, is not fully minimal or barefoot.
Well, don't they go from like a Nike 1 to a Nike 7 or something like that
I'm not
in
too
terms
sure,
of how much cushion they've got, and then obviously there's the Nike 3s, but I think it's all based on the amount of support that they've got underneath the foot.
Yeah.
So
and how high the heel is to where the forefront is, the drop of it. Yeah.
And that obviously that gets you not landing on your heels. So if you're out running and you're landing on your heels, you're putting a lot of pressure up through your Achilles, up through your shins and things like that. So it's about your running position is really important. So you should be your centre of gravity should be in front of you. So you're almost leaning forwards, and then you're actually landing on. You're not landing on your toes. You're just landing on the cushion behind. At the bottom of your toes before you get to the base of your arch. Whereas, and you should be in a kind of a straight position. Whereas if you next time, I'd recommend to anybody, next time you go running, instead of maybe having a point of reference to where you want to get to, concentrate on your running style. So start with your feet, start with where's my foot impacting the floor. Is it my heel, or is it my tiptoes, or is it is it on my arch, or is it actually on the optimal position just below my toes? Then have a think about like your hip position. So most, like average, as I say average, when most runners who are not like elite or are not experienced runners, they bend at the hips, and that's a really poor position to be in. So you want to be kind of like straight. So just monitor that. And I'd say if you are running and you're bent at the hips, just squeeze your bum cheeks together a little bit, push your hips forward, and then then you want to look at your shoulders. So it's like a 3 points: your feet, your hips, your shoulders. Exactly what you would do on a postural assessment. So just have a think about that. If you are running, because we're talking about preventing injury. That's one thing that goes a long way to doing it is how you exercise. I suppose it's the same in a gym. You should always assess your feet first. If you want to, if you're doing any type of exercise, I always coach people. So if you're doing a chest press and you're on a seated position, always get the feet first. I always think about how are your feet on the floor? Are your knees tucked under your feet up? Are you out nice and flat? Solid base to the feet, and then solid knees. Always try and keep those in line with your feet, and then it's up there from to the rest of the exercise. Whatever exercise you're doing, whether it's a lower body or an upper body exercise, really your stability starts down at the floor. So,
a lot of the time people think they have something wrong with their hips or their knees, and it's actually their feet that's not functioning properly.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that you work out the connection. If your arch is weak or it's flat, you're flat-footed. That's putting strain through your heel, your Achilles, your calf, your hamstring, and then into your glute, and then it comes into your lower back up to your shoulder. So a lot again, not just hips and lower legs, but even shoulder pain can come from your feet. So if people are aware of that, then, it's a good starting point. Good stuff. All right. Any final comments before we finish? One top tip.
One top tip.
One top tip.
It would be to, no matter what you're doing, just increase, whether it's wearing barefoot minimal trainers or whether it's starting a new exercise regime, you just steady yourself into it. Each week you should try and increase it by like 10%, and go from there.
I was going to say that. I was going to say don't
that's
run before you
double
can
important then, isn't it?
No, that's good. Don't run before you can walk. I think it's one thing that, it's kind of human instinct, isn't it? To, I'm alright, I'll be alright. Go to the gym, I'll be alright. And then 2 days later you're crippled with back pain because you did something wrong or whatever.
I think also just finding an exercise you enjoy. Don't just do what everyone else is doing. Do whatever you enjoy.
I think that's really important. You will never succeed in your goals if you're doing something you don't enjoy.
No.
And there is something out there for everybody. You don't have to be at the gym. You don't have to run. There's so many different activities, and that's going to get you moving. That you can do. My tip would be to focus on your movements. So don't focus on your particular goal of I want to run for 60 minutes. Focus on how it feels. So if something starts to feel wrong, your body's tired and it doesn't have the energy, or it doesn't have the muscle strength to continue, so stop and then build on it. So it's the same, but I swear it's the same as what you two are saying, but in a different way. Listen to what your body's telling you. If there's something that don't feel right, stop, and then seek advice as well. Don't be scared to ask. You've got for our staff, you've got 3 people in this room who are exercise professionals and have been for a number of years with great history and background within the profession. So, we're available for one-to-one support for people who want it around anything health and wellbeing, particularly nutrition and exercise, but anything health and wellbeing related, physical or mental health. Lots of information on the intranet, so do go onto our pages. There's some workout programs. We will put some additional ones in the in the show notes, but there's more on the internet. If you want personalised stuff, like I said, do get in touch with the Health and Wellbeing inbox, and we will get back to you with support for that. But thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.